Welcome to Your Epic Pursuit. I'm Mike Mooney, and this is a space where we dive into inspiring and real conversations with people to explore their journeys of leadership and performance. And we're going to look at this through the epic lens of excellence, presence, intentionality, and curiosity, as we always do here. And you're going to see threads of those themes pulled out through our conversation today. Our goal is really quite simple. We just want to empower you with some new tools, ideas, strategies, and frameworks that are going to help accelerate your pursuit, whether that be in your business, whether that be in your life. That's what we're here to do and here to share. And today I'm really excited that we have a longtime friend of mine, Chris Traeger, who is a absolute veteran within the sports, entertainment, and technology industries. Currently, though, he's the executive director of Boomtown Innovation, which is an incubator pairing tech startups with Comcast, NBC Universal partners and subsidiaries. Chris, I'm so glad that you were able to make time to be with us today. Thank you, man.
Yeah, so good to be here, Mike, and always good to spend time with you.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you. That's awesome. Well, hey, I would, I'm mesmerized and by your backdrop, and I love it because it's very tranquil. And as I'm thinking about the work that you've been doing in tech startups and that world of pairing, companies that are trying to break through with the brands that have the resources to help them get there, it's probably not a very tranquil environment to be in. A lot
Yes.
of uncertainty, I'm sure, right? And a lot of the conversations that we've been having lately is around quite honestly, like the uncertainty that so many leaders are trying to operate in effectively, and in your world, that's probably a little bit more of a norm than what others are experiencing. So maybe if you could just start us off by telling us a little bit more about what you have going on at Boomtown, and then maybe like how you all deal with or maybe embrace uncertainty to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I thrive on uncertainty, and the background is an effort to try to fool myself into believing I'm in a tranquil state. But no, in all seriousness, I think someone once said something like, "You can either let things happen or make them happen." And I've always been one of those people who tries to make things happen. And so, my legal training on like day two of law school, I think it was my contracts professor that said, things are pretty gray. Like you might think they're black and white, and the world's black and white, but
Yeah.
the law is gray, and you got to get comfortable with grayness, and you got to figure out how to work in the grayness. And ever since then, I've always thought about, okay, what are those creative solutions where you can shape things to your advantage, to your client's advantage, if
Yep.
you're an attorney,
Yep.
or if you're a consultant, or if you're, or to your boss's advantage, or your company's advantage, or your partner's advantage. So for us at Boomtown, the world is very uncertain. It's rapidly changing. Artificial intelligence is accelerating that tremendously. And a lot of people are afraid of change. But one thing I know is the world is always changing,
Hmm.
and the pace of change in our lifetimes has really increased exponentially, and every day it becomes even more different. So, our thought at Boomtown is how do we get out in front of that? And some of it is just through experience, some
Mhm.
of it's through research, and we spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people in the sports and innovation and tech ecosystems. Every day we have multiple conversations. We have a research team that actually researches what's going on and
Hmm.
helps us find cool trends and different things. But the best thing I can do is to try to predict the future is to talk to people who are navigating it and try to find those patterns, and then find companies that are out in front. I mean, we talk to companies that have been working on building AI platforms for 7 or 8 years. To them,
Yeah.
AI is not a new thing,
Right.
and they've been in kind of stealth mode or in beta mode, and now they're like, okay, now the world is actually ready for what I've been building.
Yeah.
So when you talk to people who are like 8 years ahead of the rest of the world,
That's right.
it feels like they've got more answers than a lot of people. There's not a lot of people like that. So it's cool to talk to those people. It doesn't remove the uncertainty, but it,
Mhm.
it limits the amount of uncertainty that you might be seeing. So
Yeah, it's interesting when you're dealing with people who, in that case, I would call them like extremely early adopters, but
right.
believers, right? Innovators, trailblazers in that space, uh, to understand like their world and what they've had to work through. So by what is something maybe that you've picked up from them that's maybe helped you embrace uncertainty? Is it persistence? Is it I don't even know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I have to assume that there's some osmosis that you've picked up from being around these creators and
Yeah,
catalysts.
exactly.
You know?
Look, I think people that are successful in building new things and innovating, and the AI geniuses,
Yeah.
they have kind of two core elements that go hand in hand, but are rare. Like, so you have to have vision and creativity,
Hmm.
but then you also have to be able to execute,
Mm,
right? So a lot of creative people have great ideas and they like to talk about things, but they can't execute. And then a lot of people are used to executing, are more operational,
yeah.
but they don't have the vision for thinking two steps ahead. So in technology, more often than not, the CTO is
Hmm.
more of an executional person. They were an engineer by trade.
Right.
They build things. They have a roadmap, and they're moving along the roadmap, and they're knocking things off the to do list. And they have an annual roadmap, and then they might have a 3-year roadmap, but they don't think beyond that at all, right?
Yeah.
The visionaries, the people who are truly building new things, they're thinking 5, 10 years ahead.
Mm,
And they're able to take creativity and think about, okay, well, if I want to be there in 8 years, what do I have to do to get there?
right.
And then our job at Boomtown is to disrupt the roadmap, right? The only way to innovate is to look at the roadmap and say, how do I force something new onto the roadmap? And that might be something that's a tool that's competitive with something that they're building in house or something they found elsewhere.
Yeah.
But by its very definition, if you're just doing everything that everyone else is doing, that's not innovation, right? And the roadmap usually is a carbon copy of what people are doing and other organizations. So we try to be disruptors. Now, disruption has a negative connotation sometimes, right?
Yep.
So, oh no, they're going to disrupt my day, or they're going to create risk for me. And so one of the biggest things we do is try to get people comfortable with the fact that disruption is actually a positive thing and can
Yeah.
actually improve business results.
Yeah.
And being comfortable with that disruption is something that requires trust and relationship building.
Oh man, big
So
time.
this whole thing is like, you will not try a new technology if you don't trust the person who built it. So it's a people business, right?
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time building trust, relationships, trying technologies, and the best way to build trust is by action, not words, right?
Hmm. That's so true. That's so true. I had a mentor of mine years ago who told me, he's like, Mike, when you're leading through times of uncertainty or change, and leading in general, he said people are going to watch your feet, not your mouth. So it's like you gotta walk that talk. There's no question about it. Chris, you've had just an incredible. I hate to say we use the word run, but career within sports. You've seen it from the agency side, you've seen it from the corporate brand side, you've seen it from the league side, and you've seen it from so many different perspectives. So you've had the opportunity to lead through a lot of different organization styles, size, sports properties. It's really incredible when you look at all that you've had your hands on over the years. But I'm curious to know if there was a time when you had to make a decision, and maybe it was a bold decision, maybe it was one of those that was kind of a gut check, maybe for yourself, or and you questioned it, maybe, hey, is this gonna work or not? Or maybe your team was
Yeah,
saying, hey, Chris, I'm not so sure that's the right hill that we need to be running up.
yeah,
But you listened to whatever it was in your gut, your heart, or your head, or some combination thereof, and said, no, we're gonna go in this direction. Um, and that ultimately like just changed the trajectory of either like your leadership or maybe even the performance of the team. Can you share a time or an experience that may have happened for you?
yeah. I think a couple of examples that come up. One is more of an individual one, and then
Mhm.
I have kind of a team example, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So individually, I was a lawyer, right? So I
Yep.
was I was very blessed. I graduated law school, and literally a month later, I was working in house as a paralegal with a division of Octagon. And within a year, I passed the bar exam, and I was the general counsel of that small division. And
Mhm.
then within a year after that, I was the general counsel of Octagon at
Wow.
27 years old. And so I was the legal counsel. I had like one part-time paralegal. and I ran all the legal risk management, business affairs, insurance, real estate, all that stuff. And so it was one of these things where like I was willing to try anything. And so they're like, yeah, look, give Chris it, like whatever it is. So I did a bunch of stuff, non-legal stuff too.
Yeah.
And I became an expert in certain things like sweepstakes promotions and, insurance and bonding and contract law and
All the sexy
advertising,
things, all the
all the
sexy
things that
things.
every kid dreams of doing, right?
Yes, yes.
And by the way, I never thought I was going to be a lawyer. I wound up in law school because I had a history degree and I graduated and I found out I could either become like a high school history teacher and a coach, or I could go to law school. There's kind of like the only paths, right? So I went to law school because I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of curious about the law. It
Yeah.
might be a good launch pad for something else, but I wasn't even sure if I was going to practice law. And here I am, 3 years after graduation, I'm the GC, and I had other lawyers kind of scowling at me, like going, like, what does this kid know?
Right.
Well, it was one of those things, trial by fire, man. So
Mm.
like going in house right away, working for a major corporation,
Yep.
global, very diverse, challenging job right away, and I worked my way up to where I was doing other things like consulting for Nextel on MasterCard, and that's when you and I met in the
Yep.
Nextel Cup Series launch and things like that. But I started using the business knowledge that I got as the lawyer to provide advice to the PGA Tour and MasterCard and their negotiations and media deals and all that. And so I got all this experience, and then I wound up having the opportunity to go to Bank of America, and I was an in-house counsel there for 3 years.
Mhm.
After 11 years practicing law, I was like, 11 years ago, I never thought I would practice law at all. And
Right.
here I am, I'm on this fast track. I was the youngest in-house lawyer in Bank of America's legal department.
Wow.
So you fast forward, like 33 years old. The next youngest lawyer was like 40. And so I'm sitting inside a 500 person global legal department, and I'm going, this is a little too stuffy for me and a little too corporate and a little too regulated. So
Okay.
after 2 years in legal, I go to my bosses and I'm like, I think I can do my client's job better than they can because I've been observing the whole thing for 10 years now. I've always kind of wanted to move over to, sports marketing.
Mhm.
And so I think there's a way where I can, work with you guys and make the transition. So after a year of talking, I convinced them to move over and start working on the NFL sponsorships they had.
Yep.
The NFL is very lawyered up. Banks are very risk averse. So yeah, putting a lawyer in the
It's
marketing department is a great idea.
a
Like
great idea.
Anheuser-Busch would never do that, right?
Right. Right.
Coca-Cola would never do that, right?
No, no.
They're
But
much
the
more like,
bank,
I need brand guys, But
yeah,
the bank's like, yeah, lawyer is perfect for that. So I
we were
made that
missing
transition.
something. We were missing something in
Yeah,
marketing. The
we
lawyer.
needed, right. We needed a lawyer in marketing. Crazy, right? But it was a tipping point for me because so everyone around was like you're really good at what you do. Like people really like you, and you've been super successful, and you had this meteoric rise. Why would you change? Like that seems crazy.
Hmm.
And so I thought, you know what? I've been watching my clients, and I feel like I can do this work well.
Mhm.
And I also felt like I was on a bit of a hamster wheel where I started to see a lot of
Mm.
repetitious work, and I was one lawyer for 1,200 clients, and there was no growth opportunity for me. So I was like, well, I'm going to stagnate here with 1,200 clients and be stressed out and make 2% raises being a lawyer for the rest of my life, or I can go do something where there's more growth opportunities.
Mm.
So I made that leap, and lucky me, Mike, that was 2008. So those of you who are around our age realize that in 2008 there might have been a little bit of a mortgage-backed crisis
Yeah.
that was documented in a film called The Big Short,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I was in the bank regulatory legal group at the beginning of that year, and I moved in March, and by September, Bear Stearns was going under, and Countrywide and Merrill Lynch had been acquired by Bank of America, and so
Yeah.
I was really smart. I switched careers at the absolute worst time ever, right? So I'm sitting here going, new career. I got young kids at home, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what did I do? I just jumped off the rocket ship and onto the sinking ship potentially. But you know what? My attitude, I was like, look, I'm new to this area. I'm going to work
Mhm.
harder than everybody else. I'm going to get along with everybody else, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to hang on and
Yeah.
to add value to Bank of America and to grow my knowledge base, right?
Mhm.
And so I was the guy who was like, I don't like double my job description, give me this whatever assignment you want, can do, yes, will, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was able to hang on there for 7 years in the Bank of America sports marketing group, and I took on baseball and NASCAR sponsorships,
Yeah.
and I started overseeing the Bank of America Chicago Marathon because we owned and operated it. And I built out with our team. We built out an ROI platform, and we negotiated a bunch of new deals and ran a bunch of campaigns. And it was all, in the pressure cooker of budget cuts. Like it was understandably, right. You're going
Mhm.
through a crisis, and so a lot of people looked at that decision and said, "Wow, that was kind of crazy or stupid." But I thought it was like a really I wouldn't change that for anything because
Mhm.
it's been the step that took me to the other things that I was able to do. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I what I love about that is well, there are a lot of things in there, and that I can empathize, appreciate, and say, man, I'm right there with you. Yet, what you ultimately did is that you said yes to you. You bet on you,
Mm,
based on knowing that. Listen, this is how I work. This is how I operate. This is how I'm going to approach this. And I think there's also not just a level of confidence in that, and that's, I think, healthy confidence. I didn't hear ego in any of that, but I also think there's like a level of curiosity in there as well to say, look, I am really good at this right here, yet I, I see an opportunity over here, and I believe, not I think, I believe I can do this as well, if not better, based on what I've learned. And what you found, it sounds like, and this was my experience too, going through my career, is that when you look back, you realize that the experiences were just stacks, right? And you didn't sometimes realize that
yeah.
the step you made here was
Mhm.
going to ultimately, when it was combined with what you were doing, create value that somebody saw and goes, "We need you to come over here and help us do this."
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's been really interesting, and so every step of my career has been quite a bit different than the last step in some
Yeah.
way. You
Yeah.
mentioned I worked with different types of organizations, but I also had different types of roles, and it all has to do with transferable skills and ease of learning. And so, like
Mhm.
I didn't like when I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to do really at all. I just decided in law school I wanted to do something in sports and whatever that might be,
Yeah.
just because it had been part of my life since I was walking. But for me, it was each step of the way is like, do I like the people? Can I learn in this role? Can I contribute in this role?
Yeah.
And if like, there's a lot of people who do really well, like just selling tickets their whole life. Like they just do nothing but sell tickets, or they do nothing but sell
Yeah.
sponsorships, or they're always a CFO.
Yeah.
And I admire those people, but I get bored too fast. So like I could have been a general counsel the rest of my career. I probably could have stayed at Octagon forever.
Yeah.
But I want to always learn so I don't get bored.
Yeah.
And so, like for me, I want each job to be 50% different than the last one somehow. Because
That's
if it's only
interesting.
5% different, I'm not really learning much. And I think the thing that's really frustrating for someone like me is when people are looking to hire for certain roles, when you have HR managers or recruiters or hiring managers, the safe bet is to hire someone who's done exactly that job,
Mm.
maybe one title lower, but
Yeah.
they've done that job, and
Yeah.
so you're confident they can do all of the things in that job. And
Right.
from my perspective, I'm so curious about why most people are like that, but
Yep.
I'm really curious why 95% of people are like that, because I'm like, how do you expect people to be happy
Yeah.
if they're going to do the same exact thing for 5 more years that they did for the last 5 years? Because
Mhm.
human nature is we're innately curious usually, and we
Mhm.
usually want to show progress and growth. And the only reason you stay in the same type of job forever is perceived security, right? Oh, this is safe.
Perceived.
This is safe.
Perceived.
I've
Perceived.
always done it,
Yes.
right? And
Yep.
I use the word perceived very, very deliberately, because
Yep.
what happens is if you are, if you're this, if you do the same thing forever
Yeah.
and you don't adjust and learn and adapt and get better at that job, or do take on more work, you're going to be obsolete pretty quickly. Like
Yeah.
especially in the world of AI,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
So
There
to me,
there
it's
there
like
was
in
a
order to
there
remain competitive, you have to continually learn.
there was a time that you could have a career and get by just coming in, punching the clock, doing the job, and going home. But that was a
That was
generation
my
or two
dad's generation.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That is not today. Now, I do believe, look, and this leads into your point of perceived safety. And I think there are people who are comfortable in a role and will stay in a position or in a particular field because A, they know it, it's comfortable. Maybe it even affords them a lifestyle that is more important than the learning
Yeah.
part of the job and going after the next role, the next thing on the ladder, right? The next rung. But but there are a lot of people who will use that as a safe harbor, who really on the inside are like, I know there was something else out there, and I get one run here in this world, and what could I do? And what I hear loud and clear in you is that you don't want to live with the regret of not knowing what that opportunity could have been or what you could have brought to it. What I hear a lot in here, and I love is this idea of shaping and influencing and using your collective experience
Yeah.
in the next place because that's value, and to those hiring managers who are taking the safe bet because it's a safe bet, versus bringing someone in, they might say this person could be a disruptor, but a positive disruptor. Going back to what you were saying earlier, saying, look, they bring in a whole new skill set and can do the job and can probably look at this through a different lens. It's going to help us
Right.
instead of Sam or Sally that have been doing this for 25 years and only know this way. We're
Right.
not in that world, right? I mean, you're seeing it every day where this way is quite honestly the precursor for extinction.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but I do think in the sports industry in particular, innovation and growth and change has been slower than other industries.
Really?
Uh, yeah.
That is interesting to me because and maybe I'm just looking at it through a different lens. It seems like the fan or consumer experience within
Mm.
sports is like this hotbed for innovation and just bringing in new things. So is it slower?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
I'm
know, I know. When you've been in sports your whole life and you've been living in the leagues and teams and things like that,
yeah.
the pace of change feels really fast. And the reason I say that is, we go to things like Web Summit.
Hmm.
I was in Vancouver last week. It's 15,000 tech and AI geniuses running around, and I'm just a dumb sports guy, right? And I'm talking to people, and then we talk to companies. Like I ran into this one company, and he has this earbud, and this dude literally had a demo where he could play a video game with facial expressions using an earbud.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. He's playing the 2K golf game, the PGA Tour 2K. And he was showing me by blinking, he would and then he would do this to swing. And his score was as good as anybody else. And literally like the video is him like he's showing like I'm not moving my hands, I'm not moving my mouth or my eyes or anything. Like he would like move his forehead like this and it would adjust the like where and we do this like with a slight thing and the player would rotate. So this is the kind of stuff that we're seeing.
Unbelievable.
And then you go back and you're like, okay, but the TV remote and no offense to anybody, but like the TV remote has been around since 1992 or 1989 or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're still using TV remotes. And this guy is like, I can control any device using this little earbud that I created. And I'm like, and I can switch the channel by blinking and I can move the volume up by, smirking. And I'm like, huh? So that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's the kind of stuff that's being
Okay.
deployed in other industries, like
Yeah.
the aerospace industry and the medical industry, and so people are like, oh well, we've advanced a lot because the Ticketmaster app is better than it was last year. I'm like, it still freezes. My tickets still don't download right. And again, I'm not trying to disparage anybody.
No,
Some of
no,
it's
no.
Wi-Fi related, right? So
Yeah.
it's just the whole infrastructure. It's
Yeah.
very difficult to move data through a concrete building with 100,000 people in it, right?
Right.
So there's some
Right.
physics
Right.
issues
Yeah.
that other industries don't have, but some of these issues are solvable, right? So again, there's a lot of smart people working on it, but I think you got to bring other industries from the outside into the
Mhm.
sports industry in order to really leapfrog where we are today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. I think that that's phenomenal, man. So tell me, when you think about leadership, your time in the seat leading people, and obviously you've acquired a lot of experience. And again, I just love the breadth of where you've been. Is there a leadership principle that you've leaned into that's really served you well? You know, whether someone shared that with you, whether you picked it up along the way, but
Yeah.
what's that one principle that you lean into that serves you time and time and time again?
Yeah. I wish my answer was a little more fancy or scientific, but it's kindness. It's
Really?
it's pretty straightforward. It's kindness. And the reason why that might be surprising is there's a whole ethos in our culture that says nice guys finish last,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nice guys are pushovers and you
Mm.
know, nice means weak.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer that it takes extra energy and courage to
Mm.
treat people well.
Mm.
Whether that's people that work for you or partners or people you negotiate against. One of the hardest things that I've ever had to do is negotiate across the table from an attorney who is aggressively in your face and condescending and confrontational. And what I found is it took me a while to learn this, but you know, the more calm you are,
Yeah.
the more you win. And for together, you know, there's this old like, does somebody win a negotiation? You get to win and
Right.
get to yes and all that stuff. I believe that the more calm you stay in stressful situations, the better the outcomes. And when I say, you know, there's a lot of egos too, Mike. I mean, you've seen it. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of people in the sports business that are egotistical for a variety of reasons. Maybe they're
Mhm.
very financially successful. Maybe they work for a high profile brand, so that
Yep.
feeds their ego.
Yep.
Or they're always out front because they own something or they're a leader in something. And
Yeah.
I've always just taken the tact of, if you treat people with kindness, whether it's no matter what the situation is, you can still be firm. You can still be, you know, tough and
Yep.
have a strong backbone,
Yeah.
but it's just going to get better outcomes, and you're also going to have healthier relationships over time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that to me, again, what I love about this conversation is that, you know, looking at you through the lens of where you are now in technology, right? In startups and it's all about, you know, again, coding and this vision. And yet so much of what we've talked about here and that served you well in all this time, I keep coming back to this theme of people,
right,
right?
right,
And curiosity and exploration, which does tie in with the tech part, but I love that journey, man. And I have to tell you, like going back through, and I hope the folks who are watching you've been taking notes, but I'm going to go back through a couple of the takeaways that I have here, Chris, just from the things that you've mentioned that I think are just really, really powerful for not just leaders, but people who are trying to either embrace uncertainty, right, and look at it maybe through a different lens. They're maybe thinking to themselves, "Look, I've been playing it safe for a long time, and you know, maybe it's time for me to do and build that bridge." And I know you're not suggesting, nor am I, and I know we've both done this in a way. We're not suggesting that people just quit their job and you know take that big leap. You should have a measured, strategic approach, right? Minimize, mitigate the risks as best you can. But maybe there are people listening right now going, "This is the nudge I needed." So here's my takeaways, man, and these are fantastic. Going back to the beginning, get comfortable in the gray. I love that, right? Because it really it helps like shift our perspective that isn't a black or white world, nor is there ever a black or white situation. And this idea of how can I show up to shape solutions? So that's something that you know, I've been talking a lot about with leaders recently within uncertainty because within uncertainty, the some people's natural inclination is to control, right? And to control, I've got to control the outcome. I've got to make sure things work out the way that I want them to. And I've been suggesting this idea of, well, what if we replace the word control with influence? Right.
yeah,
What could I influence in this moment or
yeah,
in this
like that.
conversation? Because that's about shaping something. That's shaping an outcome. It's bringing people in. It's taking what you have, but letting others have space to bring something in there. So shaping solutions was phenomenal. I took a great takeaway for when you're building teams, right? What you're seeing in your business now, it takes two types of people: the visionary and the creative, and the execution and the operation, right? And rarely will you have the unicorn that's all in one. So as you're developing your team and you want to go to the next level, you got to make sure that you have people in those defined roles. Disruption can be positive. I love that because you're right. Initially, people think disruption is like, no, 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 you're going to break all the glass in the house. We
Right.
can't do that, right?
Yeah.
But you brought that point home by underpinning that you have to have trust. You need to build and earn trust in order to help people disrupt in a positive way and understand your intention in that. The idea of your job, right? Looking at that next job and looking for something that's 50% different than what you've been doing, right? So operating from a base of credibility and um, capability, yet leaving there open enough for curiosity and exploration and growth, which is phenomenal. And then wrapping up, man, with this idea of having the courage to treat people well, to lead with kindness. Like I said before and throughout this, man, we've worked together and known each other for a long time and through a lot of different roles and a lot of different seasons of life. And I can tell you that is an absolute part of your DNA, Chris, that doesn't just show up or shine when you're at work, but I see that through every interaction you have, and I bring that up not just as a nod to that in you, which makes you unique and is a powerful gift, but it also speaks to the power of consistency, right? Of being intentional. That this is a way that I want to go through life and a way that I want to treat and engage with people. So, Chris, like this has been fantastic. And the last one, the more calm you stay, the better the outcome. That I think today more than ever is a great takeaway and thought people should be thinking about as well, to be more present and be calm, right? So, man, is there anything that you want to add or we didn't touch on that you'd want to share with the group before we wrap?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground here,
We did.
I mean, I just appreciate people like you who give people like me a chance to share their experiences because look, there's a whole generation of people behind us. We both have kids that are in college and high school and things like that. And if we don't share our experience with people, a lot of those people will not benefit from where we've been, right? So
Yeah.
so it's great to have this platform, and I'm glad you're building it
Thank you.
with good people and sharing good messages so that others can, whether they're our age or younger, whatever, they can all learn from it and continue to grow and make the world a better place. So thanks.
Yeah, man, I'll receive that and say thank you for that. For those of you who joined us, please drop your thoughts in the comments below. Would love to hear what you're thinking and your takeaways were from this conversation. And until we see you again on the next episode here, just remember that your best is yet to come. Cheers, everyone.